Let's go, girls. Come on.
From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up with Beck and Franklin is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they've always dreamed of. Why live in black and white when you can choose the brilliance of 3D and Technicolor? Each week, Sandra, Beck, and Linda Franklin and their high-powered guests will be here to cheer you on, to share their challenges, their successes, and what they've learned along the way. It's all about women supporting women. The stories and practical tips on sex, beauty, money, and so much more are designed to help you reconnect to the powerful woman you are. Fabulous knows no limits. Now it's time for you to expand your boundaries. Here are Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and have I got a treat for you? We're going to be visiting today with Elizabeth Joyce. Now, I've been a fan of Elizabeth Joyce since I was a young girl, and my sisters and my mom and I would watch her and listen to her. And if you aren't familiar with her, you really should be. You can check her out online as we broadcast at new-visions.com. She is many things. I don't even know how to describe her. She's a psychic. She's a visionary. She's an astrologist. She has many spiritual products. She's got great books. She's the whole package. And she's written a memoir. I know, Elizabeth, it's going to be hard to live up to this intro, but I really do believe you are all this and a bag of chips. And you've written this memoir called Unlimited Realities, which we're going to talk about today, but we're going to also talk about a breadth of topics because you are so well-versed. And one of the things that I thought was particularly delightful as a fan of your work was that you have a prayer room on your website. And, you know, a lot of people make these delineations in spirituality and religion and, you know, where prayer fits in and what is prayer. So I'd like to open that because you just put it out there for all to see. And I think that's lovely.
Well, thank you very much. That's very important to me, too. The more prayers we have, the more world peace will get quicker.
Now, let's define prayer because we've got a lot of different institutions that, you know, like I was raised a little girl as Catholic, and so I learned my prayers like a good girl, and I have evolved in my prayer life to include so much more. And recently I learned that song is also a form of prayer. So I'd like you to tell us your perspective on prayer.
Well, song is definitely a part of prayer. That's why we have something called mantras. Mantras are usually musical and toning, and they're extremely powerful. The prayer has changed from the way it used to be because we're not saying, if I'm good enough, may I please have. That's a totally inappropriate prayer. What we're doing more is Louise Hay, affirmations. Thank you for my wonderful new job with the wonderful remuneration and for working with people that are in balance with me so that I can enhance and use all of my gifts.
Wow. I mean, that's a very different...
That's walking into your future. It's setting a condition that you have the job. It's describing the job as you need to describe it in very neutral terms so that Spirit can decide what it should be and what fits you for the best.
Now, what about in the case of fear? You know, if somebody's fearing for a loved one, someone is sick, someone is in danger, you know, in harm's way. We live in a society where all you have to do is turn on the news and you see
I know.
people in harm's way. How do we offer up a prayer to help that situation?
Well, the first thing is to turn off the news, and the second thing is, thy will is my will. You can pray for somebody's healing if it's right, if it's their soul's purpose to be healed. Thy will is my will. It's very hard to walk that path. Very, very hard because we want to put our will in, we want to put our ego in, we want to make sure. But if a person or a soul needs a lesson, what is dis-ease? If we're at dis-ease, we're out of alignment with Spirit, and we are not able to follow the path because we're too busy mulling over our worries. So when you are in perfect alignment, there is no disease.
Now the body.
There are things that help you. I've got to say one thing. There are things that help the body. One of them is music. I have something that I call ARDAS, A-R-D-A-S. It's the oldest mantra known. It's prayer beyond prayer. And there has been a group that has been able to record this music to perfection. It's called the Crimson Series. ARDAS is on number 6. And if you play ARDAS in your house, it will clear out all negative energy. It will bring in a higher, finer spiritual energy for you, and your life will begin to get back on track. So there are things that do help prayer.
Now, when you say bring in a higher, finer energy, I want to define that as best we can for our listeners, especially Elizabeth. You know, people who are familiar with your work and enjoy you, that's one thing. But in opening up and raising the consciousness of today, when we talk about that finer energy, is that a peace? Is that a comfort? Is that a state of being?
Well, it's beyond negative. Yes, it's the beginning of the state of being, and it's beyond negativity. Most people, most psychic readers and people that do curses and tell you that doomsday is coming unless you give them $3,000, work in the astral plane. When you go beyond the astral plane into the finer energies and the double helix and the wonderful energies of the galaxy and other areas of the universe, you bring in a finer energy. That energy has no guilt, no shame, no condemnation, no judgment, no disease. It's pure love. It's pure perfection. And the state of being is a state of perfection. And you know when you're in those energies because your body feels it. All of your petty cares and worries leave, and there is only that.
And is that in a very clunky human way? When people tell me they're in the zone, they're doing something, they lose track of time, they lose track of...
Not necessarily.
To sleep? No? Okay.
No, because you can be in the twilight zone of darkness and feel the same way. So you really do have to be very careful, number one, about who you let read you, and number two, about how you are. Just ask to go higher, as high as your body will be able to at this moment. And if you keep doing that, you'll go higher, a little higher each time, maybe inch by inch, but you will. And you also know that when you come out of meditation, you can tell that you've been in a different area because your consciousness changed. Sometimes you'll get a tingling on your body. Sometimes you'll feel as if your corpuscles are opening up. And that means that the negative energy is leaving and the finer energy is coming in.
The art of meditation in a society where we live with constant inundation with electrical messages, texting, I see it become more popular because it really is the absence of, but it's the connection with everything.
Well, it's electric. It's electric. This energy is electric. We are electrical beings, believe it or not. Our brain is our computer or our plug, and it sends your messages down the spine, and as you think, so you are. Because whatever you put out from that electricity, you will bring back. Just like if I go on the computer and open up Microsoft Word, I'm on that level of experience. If I go on the computer and I open up Safari, I'm on that level of experience. It's the same with the body.
I love that. And it's so simple and so...
Very simple. And it's the same with notes. The lower notes bring in the darkness. The higher notes bring in the fineness. So there's a wonderful website that people can go to. It's called richheartmusic.com. And there's 2 H's, Rich Heart Music. Richard Shulman has been my friend for a long time, and he has wonderful music. And all of my meditation work that I do has Richard in the background playing the music.
So it's not something that was driven by the movie industry. You know, when you hear dun, dun, dun.
Oh, the movie industry has done some good things. The movie industry, I think, is ahead of our time. I always say that it's going to predict. The movie industry and sometimes books. I don't know if you remember the book called The Man. It was written in the 60s, and it was about our first black president. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. But the movie industry can pick up on what's coming, and they usually do. Maybe they're 20 or 30 years behind, but they can go into the future, I believe. However, the movie industry is also entertainment, and it's here to make us have a sensation like fright or fear or love or warmth. That's their whole shtick. We have to move something inside of people. I'm about to put unlimited realities into a screenplay, and we have wonderful people that will be helping make this a movie. And for the first time, the world will sit in a theater. Picture this: 400 to 600 people in a theater working their chakras together.
Wow.
400 to 600 people in the theater feeling all these sensations. It's going to be wonderful. We have a whole new spiritual revolution coming, and I'm excited. And maybe I'm a pioneer on the path. I certainly have been a pioneer on something. I can't figure out what yet. But I will tell you that we have to raise our consciousness in order to survive. And there isn't any, I don't have any time. If you don't have any time to go to the bathroom, what happens to you? It's the same thing with meditation.
Well, we're going to talk more about this when we come back from the break. We're visiting with Elizabeth Joyce. Now, that website she was talking about for the music was Rich Heart Music, 3 words, 2 H's, richheartmusic.com. And when you want to find out more about Elizabeth Joyce, and I know you will, you're going to go to her website, new-visions.com. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about this spiritual revolution, and we're going to simplify things. You can hear Elizabeth already taking these high spiritual concepts and making them digestible and understandable for the rest of us for the greater good. We will be back after the break with more from Elizabeth Joyce, newvisions.com.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
It's words you never heard.
We have a book titled The Art of Doing Nothing by Veronica Bien in our guest room by the bed. I'm telling you, this book is an impossible challenge. In the state of Maine, it's said that someone who bottoms chairs for a living is lazy, presumably because one's bottom is perpetually in the chair. To sozzle means to laze around or perform a task in a sloppy way. The word is mainly found in New England. A quote from 1848 describes the term as used by housekeepers in certain parts of Connecticut to refer to a lazy person. Other words for lazy people are abbey lubbers, scabberlatchers, and slaughterpooches. To me, the ultimate loblolly is someone who is too lazy to even fake like they're working.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with Sandra, Beck, and Linda Franklin. Here's more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Elizabeth Joyce, and we are going to talk about the Renaissance and what that means to everyone listening. Elizabeth, what is the Renaissance?
Well, you know, Renaissance is a word that really means going back in time. A Renaissance is a gathering of people that are forceful enough to make a change. Now, many of you know that I have been following a lady by the name of Amarita Nandamayi for 30 years. She certainly is a part of the Renaissance, and I believe the energy that she emits when she has 25,000 people in a room are helping to bring this about. It's a sweeping out, a sweeping away of our negativity, our lies, our judgments, and our fears, and our betrayals, because we've had a lot of that, as you know. And it's time for us to come together, be productive, honor each other, and have a world of peace. I did write about it. I felt that it was coming in the 90s, and I wrote a poem that I will read, okay?
Yes.
Today I have been preparing for the ray of God, reflecting on the question I want answered. When shall I meet the white light vibration again? During this day, I have felt the warmth of it, pure love vibration. At every pause of activity, with every breath, I have felt the love. Like the force of the oncoming tide, when the rising waves fill every opening, every nook, and every cranny of my being. Then I am rising and falling with this huge, deep swell, becoming one with the force of life.
We have a great sponsor today on Powered Up Talk Radio, Organifi, and you can go to Organifi.com to get 20% off your order with code POWEREDUP. Organifi is an organic superfood company that I love and use daily. From their plant-based vitamin-packed protein powder to their green juice, red juice, I get what I need every day without the mess of a juicer, the time it takes to chop, and clean the fruits and veggies, and most importantly, I have the confidence that I know what is going into my body and I'm getting what I need. See, I'm a soul-supporting single mom who cares for my 84-year-old dad and my 2 teen and preteen sons. I'm busy. See, I don't need to thrive. I have to thrive. Because on top of that, I own and run my own business that supports us. Talk about stress. I need these powerful nutrients, antioxidants, and immune-boosting herbs, along with my protein, vitamins, and minerals to knock it out of the park every day, each day. Because if I go down, we all go down. And that's not happening on my watch. And taste, gee, with all the goodness for my body, I don't really care. But I was really surprised to find out how good this stuff is. What a bonus. Try it for yourself and see how you feel. That's Organifi.com to get 20% off your order with code POWEREDUP. Organifi.com, code POWEREDUP.
And you wrote this in 1991?
1990. Yeah, I wrote a lot of poetry in the 80s and 90s. They are on my website, but the Renaissance, that's what it is. Things are being transformed. You watch the weather change. We're going to go into colder weather. We're going to have a long, wet winter. I know we're going to have one day where there will be 30 hours of snow on the eastern coast. That's a lot. And it starts at the end of November. And we're going to have a lot of other changes, which I'm in the middle of preparing now. I'm writing a piece that will be on my website later this afternoon. And it's all about the new energy, because tomorrow, Jupiter moves into Scorpio tomorrow, and at the end of the week, Venus moves into Libra. That's a very interesting combination. Scorpio digs deep and brings out the truth, and sometimes it isn't pretty. We do know that. But Libra's the judge. Libra's scales. Libra is also love, female energy, and balance. Now we have the two of these together that will do profound things with government, with world leaders. And I do see, I want to say this to people, North Korea calming down. I do see it calming down. And I do see it more peaceful, and the turbulence is removed. Whatever that means, I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I feel. And I think that we could all start to picture that in our minds, which will put out the energy to create it.
So when people ask me, what does it matter what I think? Can one person really influence? You talked about 25,000 people, and sweeping away the negativity. And I look at how influential you have been as one person, but a lot of people don't feel that way. Could you speak to the listener today who feels small or isolated, or what does it matter what I think? What does it matter?
It does matter what you think, because it's an imprint on your soul. And all of that goes with you after death. What we are doing with our soul doesn't make millions of dollars. Our soul doesn't worry about whether we're popular or beautiful or out in front. Our soul is preparing itself to going back to God. We have birth and we have death. With everything on this planet we do. So therefore, everything you think is important. I did write a wonderful book, Seeding and Nurturing the Garden of Your Soul. It's really my favorite book. And this does explain your question in detail. But I will say this, it's absolutely out of order to send hate to somebody. It's absolutely improper to interfere in somebody else's life. Sending them light, sending them support is another story. But I'm talking about actual interference. And you know and I know that it happens all the time. People do interfere. But if you send a thought to another person, a parent, a child, a friend, that's negative, they feel it. That's natural law. And therefore, what are you doing? You're not helping them heal. You're not helping them to grow into the light. You're pushing them more into the mud. So it is important.
To yourself.
It imprints on your soul, and it stops your character from developing, absolutely. But I was also explaining what it did to others.
Right.
It really floors me that when I make a prediction about a devastating event and it doesn't happen, I get yelled at, I'm no good, I'm a fraud, I'm a this, I'm a that. Why do the people want the event to happen? What is it in us that want all this hate? If they hear a rumor, they spread the rumor. Why do we do that? What have we learned that's so negative that we have to be that destructive?
Right. I think about the people who get excited for the impending hurricane or the excitement to see the devastation. Is that a lower energy? Is that
absolutely
a human
absolutely
condition? Like what is it about us that allows us to revel in that? Because we can see it reflected in the media.
Well, we can go to the movies too and see it happen. Harrison Ford and the all of those movies that I never watch. I did see Star Wars though. They're just destruction. I don't know. It seems like it makes them right. You see, the third dimension reality is this. I want what I want when I want it, without regards of consequences. I'm right and you're wrong. And you're going to tell me that you know that you're wrong, and you're going to also tell me that you know that you're right. And when you do, then I'll know you love me.
Wow.
That's the third dimension reality. And we have to get out of that. And we are getting out of that. Here's a true story. Want to hear a true story? Galveston, Texas, during Harvey?
Sure.
Okay. There was a very important man, I don't know whether it was a senator or who he was, that lived there, that got trapped on the second floor, and the water was rising. And this boat came along. Now, this was a white men supremacist who was trapped, he and his family. And the boat came along with a black man in it. Now, do you think the white men supremacists shot him? Do you think the white men supremacists condemned him? What do you think he said to him? Huh? Get out of here, you blackie. Do you think he said that? No, he didn't. He extended his hand, and they were saved. And that's the highest example that I can show you of what we need to be.
That is so profound, Elizabeth. I mean, it paints such a picture of where we need to be. And is that an example of what you term fourth dimensional thinking?
That's the beginning of cosmic love and fourth dimensional thinking, honoring a person where they are. Another example is the Dead Poets Society, that movie with Robin Williams that was filmed, I think, in the 80s, about how the father wanted the son to be the lawyer and the son wanted to be a musician, something like that. We can't want for others. We can suggest for others, but they have to be who they are. And I think we're getting there. I think we're starting with the children a little bit better than we were back when I grew up. I do start my book out, Unlimited Realities, about the children. My book is not necessarily a memoir. It's a book of how to live your life absolutely surrendering to the divine. When you surrender to the divine, your life happens differently than normal, than other people would think the outcome would be. And the divine always have more than what we want. They always bring us more than what we've asked for once we can surrender and take the criticism and hate away.
Well, and I want to clarify this, because when you say, surrender to the divine, no one's saying that you don't get out of bed in the morning. Surrendering doesn't mean to stop doing, stop living. It's a change in the way you're doing.
It's a change in the way of thinking. Instead of saying, I'm going to get this done, come hell or high water, what you say is, thy will is my will. I'll tell you another story. Here's a good example. We had a service lady at our house for years. And, of course, she was like our mother, and I felt very close to her. And I had a dream that she was in trouble long after we were out of the house. In fact, I was 28. I was out of the house, college, kids, and everything. And I went down to see her. She lived in Paterson, New Jersey, and she was laying in bed, and she was ill. And every single time she got a Social Security check, she'd turn it into cash. Remember, this was before all of the ATMs and everything. And she'd leave it by her bed, and somebody would steal it. And I knew she was in trouble. So I went to my instincts. And my instinct says, pick her up as is and get her out of there. I did. And I took her up to her nephew's in Nyack, New York. 2 days later, the building that she was living in burned to the ground. And she had a few years of wonderful life with her loving nephew in Nyack, New York. That's what I'm talking about.
We're visiting today with Elizabeth Joyce. Her website is new-visions.com. If you want to learn about her astrology services, her information, her psychic visions, her prayer room, her spiritual products, there's so much to see and read and watch and enjoy. If you liked what you heard today, you can find her at newvisions.com. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about our instincts. We're going to talk about how do we develop them. And now Elizabeth was born with these gifts. Maybe some of us are born with them too. How did she recognize them? How do we recognize and grow them in our own lives as we move from the third dimension into the fourth dimension? We'll be back with Elizabeth Joyce of new-visions.com. Her books, her movies, her videos, her writings. You're going to want to check this out. She also has a weekly astrology report. We'll be back after the break.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
This is for all you girls about 42. Tossing pennies into the fountain of youth.
Do you ever wonder if you're the only woman who runs errands in her yoga pants so it will look like she went to the gym? Or how about the only mom who feeds her kids raw cookie dough? Or are you the only one who cooks her family cold cereal for dinner? Do you need more laughter and less loudness? More self-love and less self-loathing? More joy and less judgment? You're not alone. Come to the living room, a place where we get comfy, candid, and confident together. Come seeking sanctuary and leave feeling renewed. We are saving a seat for you. Give yourself some living room today.
It's words you never heard.
In celebration of what would have been author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Roald Dahl's 100th birthday, Oxford University Press has published the Oxford Roald Dahl Dictionary. The dictionary is both authoritative and a little bit mischievous, and includes everyday words plus those invented by Dahl for his books. One of my favorite words from the dictionary is Zosimus. That is what the big friendly giant calls the stuff that dreams are made of, which he whisks with his magical egg beater. Roald Dahl loves the letter Z, which he uses in his mystical words, like fizz-whizzing, zip-fizzing, and zunk. By now, you might be feeling a bit biff-squiggled. That's another word for confused or puzzled.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin. Here's some more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
This is for all you girls about.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Elizabeth Joyce. And one of the things that was most compelling, I mean, there's a lot of compelling stuff in the last segment, but one of the things that really energized me was how you followed your instincts. You know, we live in a society, Elizabeth, where everything negates the being. You know, you must buy
absolutely.
this, put this on and you will be, or wear this, buy this. And, you know, in that story about your relative or I guess she's not your blood relative, but about the woman that was very dear to you and cared for you, was the concept that you trusted your instincts, you trusted yourself. And
that was Meg Stetner.
Meg. And, you know, we send a blessing out to Meg for her participation in today's story, because you didn't buy this, Elizabeth. You didn't get it on Amazon. You didn't order it out of a catalog. And instinct is something we all have, but we either choose, I believe, to develop it or deny it.
Well, you know, this is the problem. Everybody wants it now. And at the beginning of my classes, every single time I say, listen, you're not at McDonald's. This isn't going to be instant. And people want $5 readings rather than readings that are worthwhile. Because I wrote a book called Psychic Attack, Are You a Victim? I wrote it in 2007. It was my first book. And I had to write it because I had been to court to help people get money back from the gypsies. Everybody has a canned reading. Everybody says the same thing over and over, but nobody's really telling you anything. I mean, I want to know dates, places, what time, and when. And you can by developing your intuition. The more that you meditate, the stronger that your intuition will flow. And we all have intuition. Every single one of us has intuition, just like every single one of us can sing. But we can't sing like Barbra Streisand or Frank. We can't. So we do the best we can with what we have. We all have our gifts. We all have our talents. They're not all the same. They're not supposed to be. The world is very diversified. But when you start to work with your intuition and you work with your mind and your brain and you strengthen it, your intuition will flow in and your dreams will begin to be more accurate. Every single time we go to sleep, we dream. And science knows that. And sometimes we have deeply penetrating dreams that wake us up. And I call that a precognition. And that might be something that you dreamt about that you need to handle. Sometimes we go to sleep and we get answers to questions. Mathematicians will tell you that. Einstein said often that he got his answers at 4 o'clock in the morning when all the electricity was off and everything was shut down. The answer would float in from the universe, and he'd wake up and solve his anagram or whatever he's doing in his math projects. It's very interesting, the way the cosmos work.
Well, and, you know, Elizabeth, and this is just my personal question. with respect to all that, because, I am a programmer by background and by history. And, I've worked on computers since I was, really about 11 years old. And I always go in this place that's like me with the computer, like we become one. And if I can't figure something out, my go-to is always, and people would laugh at me for this, but my go-to was always to take a nap. And I would say, okay, I'm going to take a nap now. And when I wake up, I'll have the answer. And more often than not, I would have the answer. Can you deconstruct that for me? Because
absolutely. First of all, let's picture you working at a computer and getting frustrated. I can't do this. It's not coming. Why isn't it coming? Darn. Okay, now you're frustrated. So you go take a nap, and you clear out what's called the buffer zones. All of the spaces in your aura where your frustration has built up. That's the first thing that you do. Then you have the flow. There is a law, a spiritual law. Ask and you shall receive. Before you can receive, you have to clear out the buffer zones. And once you clear them out, the answer comes. The way that we destroy that, and we do every day, is but. You should hear me when I'm on the phone and I tell people that they need to meditate. But I said, cut out all the buts. There aren't any buts. You need to do it. You either do it or you don't. But there isn't any buts. Don't you brush your teeth? Don't you take a shower? There's no buts. So that's what you were doing. You were clearing out, and you had your wonderful flow of energy come back in with the answer. And sometimes the answers will come in a dream. Sometimes they'll come from a friend. Sometimes they'll come from a phone call. But you always receive your answer within 72 hours of the question.
Thank you for that. Because, people would laugh at me and tease me. And even through college, if I had a big paper to write, I would say and I always thought it was, I just needed the dust to settle, and it's like everything's running around in my head and I can go to sleep and the dust will settle and I can think clearly.
And that's exactly what it is. You're taking the dustpan and you're sweeping out all of your aura so that you can think clearly and be connected and focused only on that for the time that you need to. We have such a gift of our brain, but we don't use it. We haven't been taught properly. Our brains are our wonderful connection to the cosmos, and they're our wonderful connection to something called your blessed higher self. I have a friend, he's a PhD, he just wrote a book, Flying with My Blessed Higher Self, and it's coming out. You should pick it up when it comes out.
Well, and I think of some of these things that I was told as a little girl. Like my mom would say, you know what, just sleep on it. In the morning it'll look better. You'll see it differently. There's so many things that we were
we even had a song by Meatloaf. Let me sleep on it. Of course we have to sleep on it. And people should be given the time. Again, we're not at McDonald's. If I ask somebody over and they'll say, well, let me sleep on it, and I'll go, well, fine, absolutely. And if it's not for them, they'll know. And if it is for them, they'll know. The one thing we can't do is condemn it. And that's what we do. Oh, you won't give me my way. You have to give me my way. That's out of order. That's against the flow. And then what's going to happen to you if you act that way is you're going to slow down. You're going to get blocked. You're going to get frustrated. The more that we hang on to the dust in our buffer zones, the more we are destructive to ourselves. And that's when the body gets out of alignment and goes into disease.
Wow.
I can tell you something about my identical twin sister.
Yes,
that's true.
I love that.
She called me up and told me that she had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. My first question to her was, how long have you been praying to die? And she said, how did you know that? I said, because you couldn't have pancreatic cancer unless you had been. So natural law is natural law. It doesn't mean that if you're praying to die, you're going to get cancer. It means that she was open to that weakness in her body, and that's how it manifested.
Wow. Now, can we shift gears a little bit to talk
Sure.
about when someone is sick? When your sister was sick and in her process,
Oh, it was
what
interesting.
do you do?
Well, she had her first surgery in an incorrect hospital in New York City, and I knew it. And I went to her, and I said, I have a friend. He's a lawyer. He knows every person in medicine in the world because his law is vaccines, and I can help you. So I called him. We both have been to high school with him. And he said, I have a wonderful doctor that's out of Israel with another man. They're doing all new things. Get an ambulance and take her over to Mount Sinai. So I told her. She said no.
Oh.
Okay? She said no, which told me that she wanted to die, and I had to honor it. So then she winds up in Johns Hopkins Hospital, and they do the surgery, and the doctor comes in the next morning. I stayed with her overnight. The doctor comes in the next morning and says, I don't know what's going on. All of the medicine I'm giving her body is rejecting. What's going on? And I looked at him and I said, of course it is. She doesn't want to be here anymore. She's choosing to leave. You have to honor that. Nothing you do will change that. And then I told her about Mother, and I taught her a mantra, and she left. She left her body 3 days later. But I went up to New York, and this was quite a story, and I worked with her soul, because that's what I wanted to reach. I worked with a wonderful healer by the name of Pujita, and all of my friends came by bus and train to New York to pray with me. And we all lifted her soul up to the light. We worked very, very hard for 5 days. Finally, on the last day that Mother was here, I went up and I said, please take my sister's soul. If it's her time, closed my eyes, and I saw my sister rising up between Mary and Jesus, and I knew that we had been successful. And that was it. I was done. It was very powerful. One of the most powerful experiences in my life.
And do you talk to her regularly? I mean, are you able to be in communication with her after she's gone or trained?
I do know that she's fine, but we're on a different level. I do know that she's fine, and I'm happy with that. I don't talk to her regularly. We're on a different level, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. It does matter to know that she's at peace and where she needs to be, and she is.
Yeah. Well, and after watching my mom be sick for 5 years and pass from breast cancer, to know that she's okay was the greatest peace that
yes.
I've ever known.
And that's the whole trick to our life cycle. We need to learn the life cycle, and there are books starting to come out. Remember I told you about the Renaissance? That talk about the life cycle, and the reason that they know is because they've been working for years with past life regression. And past life regression work is fascinating. I do past life regressions. I do present life regressions. Present life regressions can heal disease. But, of course, you can't tell the doctors that because it'll take away their money flow.
Absolutely. I need to take us to commercial break. We're visiting today with Elizabeth Joyce. Her website is new-visions.com. If you want to learn more about her, you can go there. And I encourage you to come back after the break. We're going to talk more with Elizabeth Joyce.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
It's words you never heard.
Did you ever notice you buy more groceries when you use a large shopping cart? The shopping cart, or trolley as it was originally called, was invented in 1937 by Sylvan Goldman, owner of 2 Oklahoma City grocery stores. Back then, shoppers carried their food in wicker baskets. One day, Goldman was observing his customers and realized that as soon as their baskets were full or too heavy on their arm, people stopped shopping. Goldman thought if we could somehow give customers 2 baskets, we could do considerably more business. What's another word for a resourceful person? A debrouillard. Goldman put wheels on some folding chairs, attached 2 baskets to the seat, and let the back of the chair act as a handle so the cart could be pushed with one hand. What do you call anything that can be manipulated with one hand? A thumbadoodle.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin. Here's more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Elizabeth Joyce. And Elizabeth gave me some great advice during the break that I'd like to share, Elizabeth, if you will. When people come at you with anger, with hatred, and especially over what you think, believe, feel, or how you interpret events. And I think it's very common these days. I see it in social media. Everybody's so quick to jump and judge and condemn and hurt. And having a response ready, I think, can really help me and a lot of people. Elizabeth, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. I thought I lost you.
I thought I lost you too. So, okay. So we talked about the break, having a prepared
response. Oh, you want me to say the response? Okay. The response is, God bless you in your truth. God bless you in your truth. And that does 2 things. It makes you detach, and you're not feeling guilty. You're not feeling put down. You're not belittled. You're simply allowing them to think the way they choose. God bless you in your truth. They can't come back at you and say, well, you said this and you said that, because you didn't say anything. You said, God bless you in your truth.
Right.
These are called loving responses. I've designed something called loving responses that helps you answer somebody in a neutral way so that it takes attack off of you. It lifts you from the problem. It lifts you from their pain. And there's many of them. Many, many, many of them. I was giving her the example of many of you have parents that might be living with you. And as they get older, they get more grouchy. And they try to order you around, and they say things to try to hurt you and to try to control you. What is that about? That's about fear. That's about their fear. They know they're growing older. They know that they are leaving the body. They're in fear, so they want to make you do what they can and control you so that they'll feel powerful. That's called feeding off of you. And the answer that you have to them is, I'm sorry that you're so uncomfortable today. What can I do to make you more comfortable? No matter what they say, don't own it. I'm sorry that you're feeling out of sorts today. I'll be back in a little while when you're feeling better if you need to leave the room. I'm sorry that you're feeling out of sorts today. Is there something that you'd like to talk about your past that you're regretting or thinking over? A good gift that we can give to older people is to listen to them with their pain about their lives. When you do, you help them free up their soul because they're holding it in their buffer zone, and they want to get rid of it. And sometimes at night you can sit down with them and say, what are some of the things that you regret doing? And listen, because they'll tell you, and they'll become freer, and they'll feel more love. They will be relieved. It's very interesting what we can do to help others in a new way.
It's listening based. It's not talking based.
Yeah, that's the last chapter of Unlimited Realities. I talk about the silence. I also talk about the silence in seeding and nurturing the garden of your soul. And it's so important. It's part of honoring others. Oh, well, you can't think that way. You have to think this way. That's a famous third-dimensional reality sentence, isn't it?
Right. It's all about control and power, and I'm right, and you're
I'm
wrong.
right and you're wrong, and I'm going to make you tell me that you're wrong, and then I'll know you love me.
Right. I mean, that's so silly, but you see it all the time in relationships and friendships. And
but let's say that you have a difficult person, and let's say it's a brother, father, husband, and you have to go through a procedure with them. They're ill. They're going to go through a procedure, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Their fear is worse than your fear. How can you surrender to that? How can you surrender to that? You decide before you start your day that you are going to surrender to whatever they say. So when they start yelling and turn here, and the control issue, just say, yes, sir, or I'm sorry you're feeling so upset. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. I am with you. I am with you. That's very important. I'm not going anywhere. It's okay. And you're going to help tremendously with those responses. Do you see that?
Yes. Because
instead of taking it personally, what they usually do is get mad and yell back and defend themselves. There is no defense to fear when it's this kind of fear. There's no defense. There's caring and love. And nothing to fear.
Right. I mean, how can it exist? How can anger continue? Because, anger peters out. And if you're not
it does when you don't agree with them. When you stop the defenses and they can't feed off your energy, it peters out. It really does. I see that you feel that way. My friends love this one, especially at the office. The boss comes in and she's grouchy and she's throwing things at you, and I see that you feel that way. I'll take care of it immediately. Let me get back to you. These are all loving responses, and all of them lift you from imprinting your soul with guilt, resentment, and wanting to fight back. You don't have to.
Wow.
Isn't it going to be great to live this way all the time? We're coming to that. We're coming to that. We really are.
Well, and you look at what goes on in politics today, and I have to get back to I have to fight back. I have to. And there really is no have to.
No. Well, there can be a have to when we are defending our lives. That's a little bit of a different issue. When we're defending our lives. Most of the time this anger and stuff isn't about lives, it's about families and control. You know that. Yes. But when we're defending our lives, we have to do it a little bit differently. And of course, talk is the way out. We were born with a voice. We're the only animal on the planet that's born with a voice, and that we can reason, and we can use our minds to comfort and help people. We can also use our minds to create a cauldron of fire. But what we need to learn is that communication is good, and sometimes we have to put a wall up. No, you can't go any further than that. It's like bringing up the 2-year-old and teaching him the rules of society. Don't touch the hot stove. So there are times when we do have to put up something. But I'm going to tell you, October is quite a month. We just had this eclipse, and we've just had the first full moon of the year in Aries last week, and tomorrow Jupiter changes signs into Scorpio. So what we're going to have is leadership change everywhere. Leadership change, at the top change, and upsets with the people that are affected by it. It's going to be interesting to watch it the last half of October. Oil prices are going to go up. I will tell you one thing that I do know. I do think that the Queen is going to bring Prince William and Catherine into being the next king, and that Prince Charles will step aside.
That would be very interesting.
I think that's happening. I also think he will divorce Carmela. I think both of those things are happening this next year.
Wow. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not at this moment. I'm working on it. I am writing this article, and I have to see what comes through. I'm putting it on the website, and you'll be able to access it right away.
If you could leave our listeners with one message that could make a difference in their lives starting today, what would you tell them?
I tell them I think it's 30-something Psalm. It goes like this: Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Because he's everywhere. Everywhere. He's in every leaf. He's in every blade. He's in every flower. He's in every tree. He's in every heart. He's in every piece of food. He's in everything you do. You can't strike a match without the power of God being there. He's there. Know that. Know that and use that.
That is beautiful. If you would like to know more about Elizabeth Joyce, about her books, Elizabeth, could you list off your books for us really quickly, your favorite ones? I mean, I could read them, but it's
well,
so nice
the trilogy is what you spoke about before, and I would like to tell the people about the trilogy. I wrote these when my sister was ill because I really couldn't write, and so what I did is I took all my classes and put them together in Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. And they are steps up the ladder of metaphysics. Book 1 tells you how to meditate, what the chakras are, how to wrap in white light, answers some of your healing questions. And Book 2 goes deeper. It goes into astrology and dreams. And Book 3 goes into your angels, your soulmates, and all that. So you can go on Amazon and you can look at the chapter titles because they let you look inside, peek inside the book, and you'll see that they have a great value. Then I wrote Seeding and Nurturing the Garden of Your Soul. I wrote Ascension, Accessing the Fifth Dimension. I wrote that book before 2012, and that book was put in my body by Amrita Mai, the Holy Mother, and it's a very powerful book, and it does tell you what's coming. Then we have the new spiritual chakras. We now have 12 chakras. And I list them, and I talk about them, and I tell you what they bring and what they do. And when you start working your 12 chakras, you're going to start coming into a better balance. Plus, I do have a list of the fifth dimensional ailments that people are getting, sleeping a lot or having fifth dimensional headaches and all that. That's all explained in the book, too. And the natural laws, what the natural laws are. That comes from Edgar Cayce back in the 1970s. So it's good to review these things and to know them. And then I just finished Unlimited Realities in July. And that's a book about my life and how I've led it and the magic and the power of surrender. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
We're here with Elizabeth Joyce. Thank you for being my guest today. Newvisions.com. Look her up on Amazon. Look her up on the web. You'll be glad you did.
We're so glad you joined us for Powered Up with Beck and Franklin. Sandra Beck, Los Angeles-based single mother and technology company owner, knows what it's like to be fit, funny, and fantastic in your 40s. Linda Franklin, a New Yorker with a successful marriage and